Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of What's Your Next. I'm Stacy Riska, your lifestyle and franchise matchmaker. Today, we have a featured franchise. And guess what? You know what? This franchise is boring. It's not sexy, and it's completely overlooked by those who are considering franchise ownership.
Welcome to What's Your Next. This is the go-to podcast for aspiring business owners who want to get to the next level, escape the rat race, and give their middle finger to the corporate 9-to-5. If you want financial freedom, work-life balance, and the business of your dreams, you're in the right place. Dave and Stacy Riska, husband-wife franchising duo, openly share their successes, failures, and lessons learned in franchising, business ownership, and working with your spouse.
What? Did you just say that, Stacy? Yes, because you know what? A candidate who I just recently placed into that franchise, that's exactly what he said to me about this franchise. Those were his initial thoughts. And now when I ask him what he thinks about it, he's like, oh my God, this business is simple, it's scalable, it has impressive ROI. I don't have to worry about being replaced by AI, and I get the lifestyle that I've always wanted. What is today's featured franchise? Well, you can see it on the screen. Floor Coverings International, the #1 rated floor coverings franchise in North America. And to help us learn more about this exciting concept, today I'm joined by Albert Hermans, Chief Development Officer at Floor Coverings International. Welcome to the show.
Stacy, I couldn't be more excited. Even after that introduction, I think we should just end it right now. I mean, that was beautiful.
Right, because who wouldn't wake up today saying, geez, I want to buy a floor coverings franchise?
That's exactly right. But most people, the answer is no. But once the onion starts to peel back, then their ears get perked up a little bit.
Exactly. And that's why I'm so grateful for you coming on and sharing this opportunity, because what I have seen of how you guys have transformed the business model, how you're helping people really build a business that's solid and helps them with their lifestyle, but also from the customer point of view. I mean, you guys are the #1 rated floor coverings company. So go share more. I'm excited to learn it.
Well, I'm excited too. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that you were just talking about, it reminded me of a book, and hopefully I've got it within arm's reach. I do. Okay, let me just pull this right up so the folks watching. The Millionaire Next Door, right?
Yep,
And so Millionaire Next Door, right? The principles of everyday millionaires. And it talks in this book about how the everyday millionaire owns businesses that are considered to be dull and normal.
Right.
And the reason why they call it dull and normal is not because they're actually dull and normal. Like, I actually think this business is more than fun and more than an amazing opportunity, but they're not going anywhere. They're not getting disrupted by technology. They're something that's always going to be in demand. The market's huge. You can have a tiny little piece of the market share, and you've got yourself a great business. So anyway, you were talking right out of this book, and certainly I'm happy to jump in and tell the listeners about Floor Coverings International, and ultimately why, if the person listening to this conversation is contemplating small business ownership and they're into home improvement, they're into, maybe they got some rental properties, or they just recently did a remodel, so that's kind of fresh in their minds, or even if they just generally love pleasing customers. I think they're going to like a lot about what this model has to offer. And so what I like to cover to give the listeners the best ability to understand who we are, what we do, is I like to just start off kind of who we are as an organization. So talk about our organization, talk about the industry, the flooring industry. And then by having that backdrop, the listeners can best understand what we do differently. You talked about being the #1 rated flooring company in North America, how we're doing that. And then we'll round things out with just talking through who we're looking for, who would make a great fit for us.
Right.
Is that cool?
You covered exactly the agenda I was hoping you would.
Perfect. Awesome. So let's let's jump in then. So who is Floor Coverings International? And for most folks, actually, it depends on the marketplace. We're growing to a point where some people I talk to say, oh, I've heard of you before. But for a lot of folks, maybe they haven't heard of our brand before, but they have heard of our parent company. So we're owned by a publicly traded organization. And one of the things that I love about being owned, having our brand owned by a publicly traded company, is that publicly traded companies, they think about things in 10-year chunks. They think about the long-term time horizon. A lot of times folks that are in career transition, having been in transition because they were dealing with a private equity company, they're dealing with private equity, and that's like 2 or 3 year turns they talk about. But publicly traded organizations think about the long term. And one of the great things about thinking about the long term is they want to build this organization wants to build long-lasting brands in industries that aren't going anywhere. So if you take a look at our sister companies, California Closets created an industry. CertaPro Painters is the largest painting company in North America. Pillar to Post Home Inspectors, largest home inspection brand in North America. And Paul Davis Restoration is a multi-billion-dollar restoration brand. Floor Coverings International is the youngest brand of the group. So we're kind of bursting onto the scene, and we're in the biggest industry. We're going to talk about the flooring industry in a moment. For the listeners on the call, I'll save you a Google search, but certainly our parent company, as you begin to Google it, you'll realize really strong ROI. It's pulled right from Google. So again, just tells you about the backing that we have as an organization and kind of how we're oriented to think longer term. And our franchise owners like to think long term as well. Now, one of the first things I want to jump into as it relates to the flooring industry is the word flooring industry sounds dusty, sounds boring, but our franchise owners, the over 300 of them that we have in North America, they love the fact that this business is anything but boring. I like to say that we're more like HGTV than we are like, I don't know, dusty carpet sales. When today, when you get your flooring job done in your house, you're remodeling the way the home looks and feels. You're completely changing the way the home is for the consumer. They fall in love with their home all over again. That's what we do. So I like to say we're HGTV, we're not flooring. Now, more specifically for our industry, there's a couple things that I really love about the flooring business, the flooring industry. And the first thing is it's a tremendous opportunity. So high average ticket. Now, why is the average ticket really high? Well, first and foremost, we sell two things to the consumer, meaning we sell the labor to install the floors, and most folks won't DIY their floors. I know I certainly won't. I might paint a room if I'm feeling ambitious, but I'm certainly not replacing the floors. So we sell the labor to do the work, but we also sell the materials, the carpet, the hardwood, the tile. So high average ticket means big industry size. And also, if your goal was, let's just, for argument's sake, say that you wanted to build a business that was a $1 million business. Well, you have to do a whole lot less floors than you would have to do, let's just say, window cleans or mosquito sprays or what have you. So high average ticket, big industry. However, the industry is very fragmented. And I like this little picture of the sprinkles because that's essentially the flooring industry. So the flooring industry is a bunch of little people. Like if you take the top 50 flooring companies in North America and you add up their sales, they represent only 10% of the marketplace. So there isn't this, behemoth Goliath person that when you get into the flooring business, you're going up against. You're going up against a lot of little competitors. Traditionally, the flooring industry is mom and pop owned retail frontage showrooms. That's the flooring industry. So not really difficult to capture market share. On top of that, the labor, of which, if you're listening to this conversation, we do not expect you to install floors. The installation is subcontracted installation. But the thing that I love about this particular labor, again, if you're interested in a home services franchise and you've got lots of choices between painting and windows and things of that nature, there's lots of choices. You could have landscaping, lawn cutting, right? The thing that I love about this particular industry as it relates to the labor component, it's subcontracted. It's skilled labor. You can't take a day laborer and have them install floors. It has to be somebody that's specialty skilled in installing hardwood or tile or carpet, but also a small quantity. So I've got a friend of mine that owns a business in the services, and they're responsible for leading 20 to 30 craftspeople, and it becomes a headache at times. in this particular industry, the flooring industry, because the average ticket size is so large and the job is so custom oriented, you need 3 to 5 flooring installation crews. So it's not really heavy on the leading of the labor component. And then last but not least, this is not a seasonal business. And that's a positive because that's 12 months of revenue. So, people get work done inside their house, 12 months out of the year. So that's a positive. So that's what I love about the flooring industry, on top of the fact it's more like HGTV. Now, we take this high ticket, fragmented, skilled labor, 12 month of the year business, and we do things a little bit different. So here at Floor Coverings International, we've got 3 core disruptors that make us different in the marketplace, that have allowed us to become the #1 rated flooring company in North America. And the first one is that we take what's traditionally a retail business and we make it shop at home. So our go-to-market strategy is not to have our franchise owners and our small business owners open up retail frontage on day one. What we know is that our core consumer, the female homeowner, who's our core consumer, she appreciates the opportunity to shop inside the lighting of her own home, next to the furniture, next to the wall colorings, have somebody inside the house to see the fact that they've got 2 big dogs or young kids or a sliding glass door that goes to the pool, make proper recommendations. So by virtue of being in the house with our mobile flooring showroom, over 3,000 SKUs of sampling, we can provide that homeowner with a very high consultative and high touch custom approach to their shopping for the right solutions inside their own home. And up front, customers rave about this. We hear it all the time, how we made things really seamless, really easy. We made recommendations that fit. They didn't have to bounce back and forth to the store. On top of that, if you put your business owner hat on for a second instead of your consumer hat, when it comes time to scale this particular business, it's all about just adding vehicle leases. You're not building out big, brick and mortar type things and things of that nature. So you're talking about vehicle leases and an employee. So from a customer differentiator perspective, though, the shop at home up front allows us to really differentiate while the customer is shopping. But then it also allows us to grab the necessary information for us to make the installation experience as painless as possible. When you're thinking about replacing your floors, you got to rip up the old carpet, clear it out, move the furniture, right? This is a pretty involved thing that you'd have to get done inside your house. And by virtue of us being up front inside the home, and then by virtue of us also managing locally, the franchise owners managing those subcontracted laborers with a high touch, high communication. And you said it a moment ago, we have become the #1 rated flooring company in North America by something called Net Promoter Score. Now, if you're a listener and you're questioning what this means, or, hey, you probably just voted for yourself a million times, that's why you're rated so highly, right? Net Promoter Score, do yourself a favor and put it into ChatGPT, see what it is, and you'll realize it has to be done by a third party. And it's one of the most kind of reputed ways that large companies measure their customer satisfaction. I'll even save the listeners the homework here. This is a screen clip right from ChatGPT, and it shows the top rated flooring companies by Net Promoter Score standards. And no surprise, here we are. We sit at #1 with a score range from 80 to 90. As a matter of fact, last time I checked, it was a couple days ago, last 12-month Net Promoter Score rating was an 87. You look at our top national competitors, they're in the 20s and 30s. How is that possible? And it's possible because, for the most part, the competition leaves the installation component to the customer and makes the customer project manage their construction project, where, again, we're ripping things up, we're moving furniture, we're putting things down. And a lot of times what the competitors will do is they'll send different people out to do different components of the job. They put the onus on the consumer to make the phone calls, arrange the schedules, things of that nature. What we do is we take our local business locally and we white glove, high touch, turnkey every step of the way for the customer. That way, all they have to do is listen to our direction, and we take care of the rest. And then by virtue of being upfront and then manage that installation process throughout, it's given us this #1 rating. And it's something that we really are proud of, and all the credit goes to our franchise owners. They're the ones locally, being there with their consumers and being super high touch. They care about making sure that we're not happy, as Floor Coverings International, and our customers are happy. It's kind of our little internal motto. So that's the second core disruptor for us, is that we're going to be high touch with the consumers. And the third core disruptor is kind of comes down to dollars and cents, and it's the way that we price our materials. So because we're owned by a publicly traded company, because we grow as fast as we do year over year, the largest manufacturers in the flooring space, you look at the top left-hand corner of my screen, they give us pricing for the carpet, the hardwood, the tile at the same tier as Home Depot and Lowe's. So effectively, what I like to tell people, I just gave you a long explanation, but if I had to give you in one sentence how we're different and why Floor Coverings International is growing as fast as we are, as highly rated as we are, what we do is we offer a high-touch, white glove custom experience for the customer from shopping through installation, and because of what you're seeing on my screen, for the price of the field. Now, you might expect that if you're eating at a restaurant, the restaurant that has the best food and the best service will be more expensive. As a matter of fact, my wife and I ate at a pretty nice restaurant over the weekend, and I can promise you it was not cheap. Yeah, you pay more. But in this particular instance, because of the way we price strategically and these vendors that we have, we're going to offer best shopping, best customer service experience, and the price is the same as the local bar and grill, if that makes sense. So that's how we do what we do. That's how we go to market. And one of the things that I have found is that when folks are investigating in the brand, they get to this juncture, brand usually resonates. Again, people really haven't thought about flooring this way. When you realize the industry is never going anywhere, you realize that, the high ticket, you realize the 12 months worth of work, you see how we do things differently. Things start to click in, and then like the business owner hat starts to come on. So like, okay, this all makes sense to me. Okay, now how does this work if I own one of these businesses? Well, I'll tell you, we're looking for people that want to build and scale a large business, lead teams, and it's evidenced by some of the numbers that we have. So as you're researching franchise opportunities, you're going to find there's something called the Item 19, which is part of the disclosure documents. At this point, if you're listening to this, you probably don't know what that is, and that's okay, because Stacy's going to be the great coach for you, right? That's talk to Stacy through it. But the Item 19 and the documents substantiate some key figures, and there's important key figures for people to know. The top half of our businesses average close to $2 million. You see that up here on the screen. Top 10% close to $4 million. We talked about the high average ticket already. Really good, strong gross margins. So that pricing we talked about a moment ago does bear fruit for the business owner. And then our investment all in, there's always ranges, but we've been doing this for so long. We know our numbers, 270,000 in investment. That's the right number to be at. And so again, from a business case perspective, it certainly does shake out. And now that we kind of know, okay, the business is built to grow, industry's there, our differentiators are there. What do we need? And so certainly if your interest is peaked at this point and you're interested in this opportunity potentially, you want to talk to Stacy about what would make a good fit and making a great intro. Here's what we need to see of you, Mr. and Mrs. Listener. We want to see folks that are leaders. Because again, we want folks to build and scale a business, large team. And so the way that I would describe our best franchise owners is they're empire builders. They built teams. They've hired and fired. They take a lot of satisfaction in their leadership skills and seeing their employees be kind of achieve goals. They're outward facing. That's important because our business is done inside of people's homes. But I have this illustration on the left-hand side of my screen quite intentionally. It's kind of like an organizational chart. The franchise owner at the top of the organizational chart, they're leading a team of salespeople. They're leading an office manager or operations manager that's going to order materials and things of that nature. And then they've got their teams of subcontracted installers like we talked about before. So again, that person at the top of the org chart, the good franchise owner, the great placement, the great fit for us is someone who can lead teams, lead people, build a great company culture. And certainly I've got examples of folks that come from all different types of backgrounds. I've got people that have owned businesses before, people that come from corporate America, chemical engineers. But the thing that they all have in common is that they love their people that work for them. They love building the company culture. They love the Christmas party at the end of the year and the company picnic in the summer. They love seeing the person they hired young in their career blossom into somebody who's a strong producer inside the business. Those are the things that they love about the business, on top of pleasing their customers. So, Stacy, that's who we're looking for. And again, I wanted to keep it really narrowly focused on who we are as a brand, the flooring industry, the differentiators, and then who we're looking for. So, if I don't know what's best for you, if we move over to the kind of the cover slide, the ending slide, or if we take the screen share off. But certainly, if there's any questions or if I missed anything, I'm happy to fill in blanks.
Albert, thank you so much. Amazing overview presentation. And I'm sure that our viewers and listeners will be happy to hear that they don't have to put those, what are those things you put on your knees when you got to get on the floor and work on the floors?
Simply called knee pads, at least that I know of.
You don't have to put on knee pads, not required. Make that your tagline.
Correct. Correct.
I do have some questions for you. That congratulations on your growth. I mean, I heard you say that there are 300 or more franchisees across the United States. Amazing. And therefore, it doesn't surprise me that some people in our audience might have actually heard of Floor Coverings International. Now it kind of rings a bell. So with that many franchisees in place, is there still room and opportunity for growth if somebody wants to become a franchise owner?
Absolutely, yes. And as a matter of fact, there's only 2 major metro areas right now where we're completely covered. So, other than that, in most marketplaces, we do have availability. Our brand is built so that we'll have roughly 500 locations at maturity. So, we're while we're well on our way, we still have a bunch of opportunity left. And at the same time, there's a handful of our existing franchise owners that maybe want to move on to the next thing in their career, or liquidate their asset and things of that nature. So even in a certain area where we might have current ownership, we also have businesses that are for sale as well. And so that's normal in franchising.
Wonderful. Good to know.
Yeah.
I'm curious, when you were talking about the business model, and I just love how you have transformed it. My background, people who know and follow me know that I have owned a coffee smoothie franchise, and we transformed the model from brick and mortar to going out to the people with food trucks and doing catering. You guys have done the exact same thing. You don't have to have this brick and mortar. You're going to the people with, like you said, white glove, done for you service, which when you're talking about something stressful like flooring, amazing, right? And you're talking to the woman who usually is the decision owner. They can see exactly what it's going to look like in the home. So kudos to you for transforming the model. But with that said, I'm curious to know, a lot of people who I talk to want more of like a lifestyle kind of a business. Is this a 24/7, 7-day-a-week kind of business, or how do your franchisees operate?
Well, that's one of the best things about being non-retail, is that you don't have to staff at fixed hours for somebody to potentially walk in. So the business operating hours are what the franchise owner dictates, because we're going to meet people inside of their homes. Certainly, yes, it's hard work, and certainly, yes, it's a full-time endeavor, 100%. But if the franchise owner decides they're not taking appointments, or they're not, doing customer-facing interactions on Thursdays, for instance, or what have you, like, they have full autonomy as it relates to their schedule. So, absolutely, lifestyle business, yes.
Good to know. Okay, I just asked because sometimes candidates, they don't mind working hard. And they don't mind working hard 5 days a week, but they're not looking for a 24/7, 7-day-a-week kind of a business.
Yeah, again, because of the appointment nature, that's certainly not the case. And on top of that, there's never been a flooring emergency that I know of. Yeah, it's okay.
Good to know. All right. I'm curious, do you offer any discounts, like for veterans, first responders, anything like that a potential franchisee might want to know about?
We're proud participants in the Vet Fam program. So yes, we have a 10% off of our franchise fee for veterans. Absolutely, yes.
Wonderful. Well, you've answered all my questions and more. I'm sure our audience has more. So here's what I suggest. Reach out to me and I would be happy to answer those questions for you, get you the information and education so you can make an informed decision if this might be a good next for you. And then I will make the introduction to Albert and his team so you can continue learning and exploring and get real deep into Floor Coverings International. So you can do that by going to, what is my site? explore.nextlevelfranchisegroup.com. explore.nextlevelfranchisegroup.com. Grab a day on time on my calendar, and I look forward to learning more about you and helping you explore your next. So speaking of your next, Albert, this podcast is called What's Your Next? So either what's your next or what is next for Floor Coverings International?
Well, the great news is that what's next for myself and Floor Coverings International are one and the same. I've been here at this organization for 10 years. I plan on being here for another 10 years. And so for us, the next thing is really becoming that household name brand. And we certainly have the coverage to do it. We're beginning the investments in brand marketing and mass media marketing. So, ultimately what's next for us is we reach a bit, as mature as we are, we reach that next stage of maturity, which is so exciting as a franchise brand because it helps our franchise owners continue to attract quality customers because the end consumer is more aware of who we are as a brand. And then anybody getting into small business, there's always that exit strategy, begin with the end in mind, right? And so over time, our franchise owners' equity in their business increases the more well-known the brand is. So it's a really exciting time here.
Congrats. Albert, thank you for joining me today to share more about Floor Coverings International. Thank you to our audience for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of What's Your Next? Bye, everybody.
Awesome.